Welcome to Voices Against Violence, a dedicated space to educate, empower, and serve as a voice for all survivors. Our goal is to provide an extensive range of resources and content that not only informs, but also inspires action and advocacy. Join us as we work together to create a supportive community, drive change, and ensure that every survivor's story is heard. I'm Charity Jordan Rex, Prevention Program Manager for Harmony House.
I'm Carlie Calera. I am joining Charity here again, and I'm the
so
agent.
excited to have you here in this format of the podcast. So now you know what Carlie looks like. I don't know why that cracked me up, but it does. So super excited though for this conversation today, Carlie, as our agency therapist. I can't wait to hear your wisdom and all of your knowledge. Today we're talking about healthy versus toxic versus abusive relationships. What's the difference between toxic and abusive? Where does it cross that line? So we're going to talk about it all. So here we go.
Yeah. I'm curious. I know it's conversational, but I'm curious what your thoughts are just colloquially on toxic versus abusive, just to start out.
I have had people ask me this in presentations, and my answer has always been really abuse is about that pattern. So if it's an ongoing pattern, I think that is what takes it from being toxic, which there might even be some abusive elements, but they're really more isolated. It might be a one-off. And maybe how that person reacts, responds, addresses it after the fact might be a little healthier than an abusive situation, but it still might be an isolated incident versus an abusive relationship where it really is an ongoing pattern. And then also you might see that behavior intensifying and escalating over time. So that's been my answer.
Yeah.
Was that the right answer?
I'm not here to
I feel
say
like
right
this
or wrong,
was
but
like kind of a pop quiz. What's your
intention.
What's your working definition?
Yeah, just personally, like if I did no digging or research or really from experience, just personally, I am a little perturbed by how often the word toxic is used, especially just like that's a toxic person. It just feels like a cover up for a lot, like just tossed around so frequently.
Okay, so wait, put a pin in that. What's your thought on how people say like, oh, my toxic trait is blah, blah, blah. Like,
yeah. I mean,
as a therapist, are you just kind of cringing inside being like, that's not how we should be talking about this?
Yeah. I mean, it's not in a judgmental way, but I think it takes away from like the true kind of power of that word. Same with abuse. Like if it's just so commonly tossed out and normalized, like it's really serious and a problem. And I think toxicity runs into that. And also to just write people off, even yourself, like my toxic trait is this, like it's said more in jest or like humorously. And I mean, again, not judging toward that. I've said it before. Like my Midwestern goodbyes are my toxic trait. Like I say bye and then it's like, oh, but this thing. And we just keep talking in like social sense.
Oh, the Midwestern.
Anyway.
My toxic trait is the Irish goodbye, where I just like to ghost.
We're
not
totally
gonna say
the opposite. Totally the opposite.
To the point, my husband and I went to a friend, total aside here, so stay with us. But my husband and I went to a friend's house. It was like a big gathering. And when we were ready to go, I just said to him, I'm like, let's go. And he was like, aren't you going to? I'm like, no. They had a full house. Yeah. Like, they're never even going to notice that I'm gone. It's going to be a while. Like, we hadn't even gotten home yet before she was texting me, like, where'd you go? Are you okay? It's like, no. I just So, yeah, we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum there.
That's funny. And neither of us are toxic for that. It's just our preference. Right. So, anyway, so that's what's bothersome is just, like, painting someone as, like, oh, they're toxic because to me, the toxic part of the relationship is, like, immaturity, insecurity, like, truly someone not having the skills to have a rightful, healthy relationship that then can lend itself to more harmful behaviors that affect the other person and thus themselves as well. Yes, that's kind of where I am coming from, and did some research prior to this, and it seems to mimic that as well.
I just want to highlight what you just said. You said, and I'm not going to use your exact words because I already can't remember them, but you're like, they don't have the tools to have a healthy. So not that they're not maybe a toxic person or a bad person, but they don't have the tools.
Right.
That's such a generous framing of people exhibiting that kind of behavior.
Yeah. Again, that's what bothers me about just like that person's toxic. And I understand that's coming from a place of hurt and probably harm, or supporting your friend who has a toxic ex. Again, these things just get tossed around all the time. So I think a lot of times there is a lot of crossover with that and abuse. And I do think one instance of abuse thus makes the relationship abusive. So that to me is more of a clear line, but isn't always the case if this isn't your life's work and what you're dealing with day to day and have experienced yourself. So when you're in it, that can be really hard to differentiate, which is part of why we're talking about it to begin with.
I think that's a good distinction. I think I did say there might even be an abusive element, and that isn't actually what I've said in the past. I think like a toxic relationship is like, maybe you argue a lot, or, like there might be some really unpleasant things.
Yeah.
But so I feel like that's also the line. So like if there is abuse, that's an abusive relationship. I feel like we had to start this conversation talking about what a healthy relationship is, like really making those, setting those guidelines, those parameters, because I always think back to this thing I heard, and I don't know if this is still true, but that like the FBI, when they are learning about fake currencies, they don't study all of the fake money. They study the real money, and they become so familiar with that anything that isn't that, so I feel like, so let's start at the top. Let's talk about healthy relationships. What are some of the things that make a relationship healthy? What are the qualities?
Yeah, I love that you like brought it back to that, because we can get so down rabbit holes with the other, but like why when we can just define what is healthy.
Let's define healthy. So, let's start with the real thing and the goal. The goal is for everyone to have a healthy relationship.
Yeah. So rather than just going off the top of my head, I'm going to go off some Johns Hopkins research on healthy relationships. Just a couple notes. So healthy relationships promote wellness is like baseline, my favorite thing to say about it probably now after reading this. And that can speak to many different things, but in a healthy relationship, both partners are safe and valued. And that goes for all aspects, emotionally, physically. Partners respect and trust one another. And there is a balance of power, could also be said as equality. So yeah, that's a healthy relationship. How many do you know?
Wait, how many healthy relationships do I know? That just struck me as really funny. Let me think of all of the healthy relationships. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the number of healthy relationships I've had in my own personal life. No, I think you touched on a lot of qualities that I always talk about. So when I'm talking to youth especially, I pull from One Love, the One Love Foundation, and they have highlighted 10 qualities of a healthy relationship. And then they seem to be pretty universal, because when I have researched that, it's like everyone kind of says the same 10 things. But like equality is one of them, fairness, respect. I mean, so you just touched on a lot of those qualities.
Yeah. I wrote those down too. That's so funny. Like, communication, boundaries. I talk about boundaries a lot in my work with clients and groups, and it's a huge thing with survivors and rebuilding those for yourself. And there's research through Brené Brown, and she found that the most compassionate people in the world, the one thing that they had in common, and we're talking like the Dalai Lama, like the most compassionate have given their lives to serve people. they had boundaries was what they had in common. Like the
Really?
number one connecting thing. Yeah.
Boundaries.
Yes.
Everyone should have healthy boundaries.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard fought to have that. And most of us, and again, I say this with clients a lot, we're not modeled that. We're not actually having boundaries can feel and be expressed to you as like the opposite of love, especially if there's control in a relationship from caregivers or a loved one in any capacity. That having a boundary with someone is disrespectful toward them or is rude or hateful. So yeah,
let's have a whole conversation at another time about boundaries.
Yeah,
because I don't feel like we talk about that enough, especially with youth and helping young people understand that, no, actually you need boundaries. Healthy boundaries are going to be good for you. Yeah. But take it back to healthy relationships.
That was only the second one.
Kindness,
Sorry.
equality, fairness, respect, communication, trust, honesty, kindness, even being able on one love they have on their list, being able to have fun together. Yes, and I think that's a good indicator too, because that means that a lot of other things are in place. Yeah. You're able to have fun with that person. That means you probably trust them. You feel safe with them. You probably have good communication. So I feel like that's a really good.
Independence is another one.
I love that. I was just going to say that one.
Yeah.
Independence.
Wow. Yes.
Which means what in a relationship?
Yeah. I think it means staying with you, not giving up pieces of yourself to appease, or of course you change and grow in a relationship with another person, but remaining who you are fundamentally, and also having the space in your day, how you spend your time, who you spend it with, like still having the independence to make your own choices and decisions, and not one person controlling that, because that is thus not healthy. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any more on that list? I can't remember have we gone...
You listed a lot of them. Responsibility or accountability.
Those are so important. Yes. And so in a relationship, it's both people taking ownership and accountability for their choices and actions within that relationship. So if the other person does something to you, like they're owning that, like, I'm sorry that I did that to you, rather than blaming you, like, you provoked me, so really taking ownership of your own actions. That's crucial. I feel like all of these build on each other.
Yeah. And apologizing in a sincere way, and then repairing that, actually working toward repair. And the last two, healthy conflict. Like actually having conflict is part of relationship. It's not that everything's sunshine and rainbows and there's no disagreement, but again, working toward that repair in the process. And then the last one, support.
Love it. Okay. So those are the qualities of a healthy relationship. So then what does toxic look like? What moves a relationship into the toxic neighborhood? Yeah. What are the qualities that define that?
Yeah. So I think it can just like sink from what we just described into probably not taking a lot of accountability or being responsible for themselves. Like probably not an interdependent relationship where you are yourself and then the other person is as well. And we both want the best for each other. It's more like blurred lines of that. So more codependency happening, or even hyper independence could get in the line of toxicity. So probably unclear boundaries, probably just not having the communication and relational skills needed. Do you have more thoughts on those?
No, I mean, I don't know that I have a whole lot to add, because I feel like what you said really covers a lot. And overall how I interpret that, and I think how that plays out in a relationship, is that relationship that maybe seems okay, but like it's like you're constantly butting heads. Like there's always gonna be like a little snag. It's not terrible, and there might be a lot of good moments, but they're going to be, if there aren't clear boundaries, if there is maybe some codependence or hyper independence, I liked that. It's just going to be like some snags,
Yeah.
So, I mean, who hasn't had that relationship too, where it's like, well, it's not like there's this huge glaring flaw or problem necessarily in the relationship, but kind of these little things.
Yeah. And I mean, at times there is conflict. There are things we're running up against that could be labeled as, harmful or toxic, just of not having the capacity. And I think the difference is like the willingness to actually work on that and be actively pursuing change in the things that aren't working for the relationship or for the other person. But yeah.
All right. So that's toxic.
Yeah.
So now what escalates a toxic relationship into an abusive relationship?
Yeah. And from you and other podcast episodes, people are probably pretty aware, but that power and control wheel always pops up in my head. It just control and power over another person would be how I would define abuse, and then a clear pattern of those items. So minimizing, denying, blaming, isolating the other person, controlling the finances, using children as pawns, physical, sexual, emotional, mental abuse. And again, when you're in it, it's not clear oftentimes. So also confusion and just that sinking feeling of something's not right here is probably an indicator of something going on, even if that's familiar from younger ages. So yeah.
So we just kind of defined each of those relationships, and you can see, as we laid them out one after the other, like the clear kind of escalation in unhealthy behaviors. If you're in the relationship, and we know this, I think everybody knows this, like when you're in it, it can be really difficult to recognize what's happening when you're in it. But are there some things that people can be looking out for?
Yeah. It is tough. I think education is a huge piece, which is your whole world and work. So thank you. Because most of us didn't grow up knowing any of the terminology we're using. For one, our self-trust and intuition, we were probably cut off from at some point in time. That again comes up with clients so often. Again, not having healthy boundaries modeled for us. So all of those pieces, I feel like if you're tapping into any of those educational pieces or getting therapeutic support in any way, or even just kind of practicing this with friendships or familial, like not all of this applies to just romantic or intimate partner relationships. So, like just kind of becoming aware yourself is a big piece of it, because when I know, oh, I feel good around this person and not around this person, and just kind of having that difference and contrasting experience, that can be an awakening thing. But I truly think everyone's journey is different, and everyone's time frame is certainly different, to kind of waking up, so to speak, to what their experience is. And I've described that on the podcast before. Certain areas of abuse in my life, it took a decade to note, oh, that was an abusive act toward me. So I think there's a ton of grace toward that. And again, our work, we want everyone to see this and to be safe and be well, which is part of why we're talking about this. But no one can really force that upon anyone. And I think if you're curious and if you're questioning that, something's not right. And honestly, who cares if it's toxic or abusive or one or the other? Like the in between of both, like who even cares how it's defined? If you are being harmed in any way or put down, like you deserve a healthy relationship. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And some people might not be capable of that.
I think that just can't be said enough. I was with a group this week, and I had them write down responses to a couple of prompts. And so, I collected them at the end of the session, and some of them were so heartbreaking because there were comments like, well, I don't think I deserve this and I don't matter. And it's like, no, like you're a human being. Every human being deserves a healthy relationship, healthy friendships. And I appreciate you pointing that out too, that, this isn't just something that happens in romantic relationships, like your friendships, your classmates, your coworkers, the folks at church, like, well, whoever you're interacting with, all of those are relationships that you're having. They all deserve to be healthy. Everyone deserves a healthy relationship. And so my response, even though I didn't know who it was, just responding to the written statements, was that, like, you don't have to do anything to deserve that either. Like, you exist, you're a human being, and so you deserve to have a healthy relationship. That does take some internal work to get to the point where you accept that you are worthy of love.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the flip side, again, I kind of ended with that whole thing that I said with this, but like that some people are just truly not capable of providing that love and are truly not capable of meeting you there in the way that you deserve. That's almost more difficult to accept sometimes.
Oh my gosh, I am so glad. We kind of talked about this episode a little bit, but we didn't even touch on that. And that is such an important point, because I think there are so many folks who think, well, if I can just be there for that person, if I can just love them enough, or like, I'm going to be the one that's different. I'm going to be the exception. Yeah, he abused all of his ex-girlfriends, but I'm going to be the exception.
I sure thought that.
There are those folks who they just want to rescue all the broken birds. But I read a book, and I can't even remember the book now, but I just remember this one quote that essentially was that some people are never going to be the people that you need them to be.
And that's so sad.
It is.
Like, that brings up so much grief that we all at some point want to avoid.
Yeah.
I think, and that's why to some degree we get stuck in that, because that's devastating.
It is.
And when you're a child and that's your attachment figure and your caregiver, then how are you, how do you cope with that? You become the appeaser. You become the one who fawns and tries to make everything better.
Yeah.
And so that's already ingrained into a lot of who you are. And that's not to say that healing cannot occur in those ways, but it's an undertaking, especially if that is just, ingrained, as I said, into your way of being and relating to others and your attachment styles.
At the time that I came across that quote, it was actually healing for me, because I come from a family, both sides of my family, both of my parents came from homes with a lot of abuse, generations of dysfunction. And so as a young adult, thinking like, why can't I have a normal relationship with my grandparents or whoever? And like, so for me, that quote, like, some people are just never going to be that person. And I have someone in my family, they're older now, but they experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of extreme physical and emotional abuse in their youth and young adulthood. And it's taken me years to have this understanding. But as an adult now, I can see that, like, they are broken, they're hurting. This is their trauma. They're never going to be able to show up as the whole healthy person that I need them to. And it takes time. Like, it's not, I was well into my adulthood. And then even after that, I was like, okay, I still had to process that. But I think at some point, and I wonder if you would agree with this, I think at some point we have to reconcile that with ourselves, that no matter how much you may love someone, you can't change someone, and they may never be that person. And it is that realization that the people in your life that you love may never be able to show up for you in that way. It is grief, because it's like a death. It's like the death of what you wish for that relationship. But once you realize that, though, I think it is freeing in a way, because you know that it's not about you.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you can kind of let go. What are your thoughts on that?
I just keep like nodding my head, I think, like trying to be gentle about it, but absolutely. And I feel like that's a huge part of my journey personally. Everyone who calls themselves a survivor of abuse, who has been through difficult relationships. I truly don't know anyone who hasn't had some difficulty in relationship, like really hard things, family of origin or not. And so that letting go, that release, that detachment, it kind of makes me think of Al-Anon, which is geared toward families of, who have been in addiction, specifically alcoholism. But yeah, those 12 steps mirror everything you were saying too. And yeah, that we are powerless to change someone. And I think that's just so hard fought and takes a lot of emotional maturity to sit with that and grieve, and I think requires support.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, mental health support.
Absolutely.
And hopefully you have a good social support with friends who can kind of help you. But I mean, that is a hard thing. I think also sometimes, there will be that, because there is that cycle in an abusive relationship where the abuse happens and then they apologize, and then you have that honeymoon phase. And so someone I know, they'll say, well, they just did this, and like, well, a broken clock is right twice a day. Like they're, you're not going to change that. And I think, we're talking about abusive relationships, but so much of this, that healing really starts with you and understanding that like there isn't any amount of actions, words that's going to change, because that person has to do the internal work.
Yeah.
And if they're not, it's like if someone's an addict, you can't just throw them in rehab, and like they have to want to do that.
Yeah.
And so
that's how not to cut off your thought.
No,
it wasn't.
It's hard though.
Yeah. So hard. That is truly my story. Like that is the light bulb realization, like, oh, this is never going to get better. And there's nothing I can do to change this person. Cause that was my underlying goal. I really truly feel, which talk about addiction as well. Like that's a whole nother thing, but you can get addicted to that feeling and that codependency and that, rescuer kind of mentality. But yeah, finally there was a reckoning of, I have no control over this, and there's nothing I can do to change it other than separate myself. And I'm so grateful for that moment. It was the only instance of abusive behavior toward me that I didn't fight back in, either verbally or otherwise, and got to leave. And he broke my windshield in the process, just to also my car windshield.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And again, just was like, there's nothing I can do, because I was just so calm and like, let's get out of here kind of thing. So I don't know. I felt like sharing that because it was just so closely mirrored of my experience, and that takes a while to come to. And that's, statistically 7 to 12 times that you live through that cycle and actually leave and go somewhere else, to shelter, to someone else's home, to just on your own for a while. So I guess there's like grace in the figuring out process. Like nothing's wrong with you if you're being swept up in that cycle. You're being abused in different ways, like of course.
Yeah. I think we don't talk about that enough either, and tell folks like you have to give yourself grace and compassion. especially as women, I think we're so good about nurturing others, and like you have to nurture yourself too. And while you were talking, what it made me think, this experience, that light bulb moment where you realize, oh, this isn't going to change and there's nothing I can do about it. It's like, to me, it's kind of like having this really huge splinter or something, and it hurts, and pulling it out is going to hurt for a little bit. But once you pull it out, then it feels, at least for me, I do remember feeling so much grief at realizing this relationship is never going to be the way that I wanted to, but also at the same time, release. Yeah. I'm curious, as a therapist, what your thoughts are for folks who didn't grow up around adults who could model this. Yeah. Like, how do you begin to figure out how to be what healthy is, how to be half of a healthy relationship yourself if you maybe you're coming from a family with generations of dysfunction and abuse. How do you begin that journey?
That is the work right there, and the desire to is what I would say, because no one can make you, no one is making you. It's completely on someone's own volition if they choose to seek out therapy or even confide in a friend about these things, which is something I would wish for every person, to have mental health support, and a really good friend to talk about these things. But
can we just say, I feel like I say this all the time. I think everybody could benefit from seeing a therapist. Like we're all dealing with so much baggage and trauma and whatever. Like, everyone should be in therapy.
It's
how much better would the world be if we were all healing ourselves?
Yeah, it's so normalized in my world, obviously, that sometimes I forget like the stigma of it, and especially for men, people socialize as men. But the other hard truth about it is, like, sometimes there's not available services or people who specialize in your specific need, or really long wait lists or other barriers to that. But I truly don't know if it is possible to feel like you are really experiencing healing without that support. And that's why I wanted to do this job, is because I was so gratefully received that in multiple different layers of my life and recovery and healing. So I'm so thrilled to get to offer that. I don't know if I answered your question. Just coming to that healing and realization.
Yeah. What if you don't have access to that mental health support, or maybe the people around you, like your social network, they also are not healthy folks. Like how else, like, what are some other ways that someone's like, okay, I know I keep ending up in these toxic relationships or abusive relationships,
or even just a relationship that you don't really like. It's just, there's better in a way too, or like healthier. It really does come back to you, in my view. And like, what is it like to just sit with yourself? What does being single even look like? What is going to a random kind of hobby, a painting night, or an event at the library? Like, it doesn't have to be expensive. Or what is just kind of putting yourself out there in a social setting that's new to you look like, and just like being intentional about kind of working on yourself and then building those skills. I would say, and there are so many resources online. This podcast is a thing.
Voices Against Violence. Yes. Find it wherever you get your podcast.
Thank you for that plug. I'm going to make a plug too, that we are locally offering a community support group.
Tell us a little bit about so if you're local to the 417, you can, if you're local to the 417, you can take part, but tell us more. And like, what do you hope folks going to that community support group will get out of it?
Yes. For months now, I've been wanting to offer it as a resource, because first of all, we receive calls often through our advocate office, through our family justice center team, the outreach case manager. So across the board, we receive incoming calls, because who would do it besides Harmony House in our area, And So people wanting specifically a community support group for survivors of domestic violence and abuse. That's what our flyer says too. I'm so happy to get to meet that need in a way. And I truly hope people come.
I can't believe that isn't already a thing. Like that didn't already exist.
People are shocked by that. I think there have been things in the past, so I won't just completely skate
but not
by
currently
that,
and not ongoing either.
Right.
So,
and we have the highest rates in our county, in the state. So again, I hope that it can be just a really fruitful option for people. And I think people are longing to connect over what they've been through, whether it's something you're currently grappling with, like, should I leave? Or also have been, you're 20 years down the road, but it's something maybe you just kind of skated on to survive through, but you haven't processed, or it would just be good to connect with people who have experienced similar things or even different, but just hearing other people's stories and truly feeling less alone is just the huge benefit and beauty of groups that I love getting to facilitate in shelter, but also for the community upcoming as well. So,
I mean, that's so huge. Like being in a space or being in a group where, the other folks are going through similar experiences and hearing it, what did they go through? How did they deal with it? How did they get out? That can be so helpful. And even just realizing like, oh, okay, I'm not going crazy. This is something that other people experience too.
And just the power of that de-shaming and hearing other people's experiences. And you could come and just listen the whole time and say nothing. That's an option.
That's what I would do. If I were going to go, I would just, I would just be sitting there as a lurker listening, taking it all in. But
totally welcome. Yeah.
Well, while we're plugging Harmony House events, I'm going to plug my own event, hosting Relationship Reboot starting September 24th, Wednesdays at 6, an online class where we will be talking about healthy relationships. Each week will be a different topic. So I hope that folks will want to come and learn about that. And that's something else we're like, are you doing a healthy relationship class? Is there nobody's doing that? There was an organization that did it. I think they lost their funding. And so no one's doing that. And, why not Harmony House? Of course we should be doing that. Yeah. And so we're going to do it this fall.
Love it. Also to note, those are open to all gender populations.
Open to everyone, free. So if you want more information on either of those, go to our website, myharmonyhouse.org. Find all the info and then also register. So Relationship Reboot, you do have to register. Do they have to register for the community support group?
Yeah, there's an interest form. It's extremely brief, and you pick your way of communication, and we'll reach out with the details of the group, and that's just to promote safety. Yeah. So the location isn't disclosed yet and all of that, but we would love to have you fill out the interest form. That doesn't even mean you're fully committed and you can come. It's 10 weeks this fall, starting September 20th.
But you don't have to go every week,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. We wanted to make it as low barrier as possible. So if you want to come dip in once or twice, that's totally fine. If you want to come all 10 weeks, you're more than welcome. And we hope to continue it in the spring as well and hopefully forevermore. But yeah.
I love that we're doing similar kind of things, same with Relationship Reboot, free, open to the public. You might just hop in 1 week, because we're covering a topic that is really of interest to you. But I'm excited that we have the opportunity to bring these events to the community because it's so needed.
Me too. Yeah. And back to what you were saying, like, what do you do if therapy isn't available to you? If truly the support you need and deserve isn't, keep going, keep educating yourself if you can, take time to breathe, like all of the basic, like taking care of yourself and learning to do that goes such a long way. And again, if it were up to me, everyone would have all of the support that they need. But maybe just in the meantime, but also those offerings are there for you, and even YouTube videos, like there's so much that can help you feel less alone in different communities online that can be safe.
Absolutely. There are lots of good resources. Our website, there are resources on there as well. Lots of lots of things, people to read, people to watch, who were doing work in this space that can be really helpful. So if you don't have anyone else, find those resources. I'm so glad that we had this conversation, Carlie.
Same. It just came to mind too that if you are in a relationship that feels like it's in these patterns of control, that it would not be safe to have searched for some of these resources to clear your browser history. We have an escape button on our website, but not, YouTube videos don't have that. So maybe just clear that history if there's a safety.
Thank you for pointing that out.
In question. Yeah.
I also, before we wrap up, you brought a book that do you want to share? Is there something that you want to share from that book? Tell us.
So I found this little book last weekend, actually, at this kind of, I don't know, hippie little bookstore. And it's called Encouragements for the Emotionally Abused Woman. But I corrected it in group and said person, just because it does entail everyone. But I'm just going to read. It's just like a little blip. And this one stood out for today. It says, looking within. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. And that is Ralph Waldo Emerson. No matter what has happened to you in the past and no matter what still lies ahead for you, the most important thing is what lies within you. You can withstand anything, whether in the past, present, or future, as long as you're connected to yourself, your emotions, what is in your heart, and who you are at your core. Spend time looking inside yourself and less time looking into the past or future.
I love that. Okay, when you co-host, can you do that every time?
Sure.
Just share. I feel like that's such a beautiful way to wrap up an episode.
Yeah. That's also how we end group therapy every time, with some kind of reading or poem, and it just is calming and wraps it up with some truth.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yes.
All individuals have a right to a life free of abuse. If you or someone you know needs help, please call our 24/7 hotline, 417-864-SAFE, 417-864-7233, or chat 24/7 with an advocate on our website at myharmonyhouse.org. Follow us on our socials to keep up with the latest news and events. This is Voices Against Violence.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.